we go again on another ride around the Carolinas to rekindle some old friendships with some special people. Tonight, 3 Carolina ladies will be featured, all homegrown products whose charm is unmistakably Southern and guaranteed to remind you of somebody you know. Then 3 Carolina gentlemen will demonstrate leisure time activities reminiscent of pioneer days. The fun begins in a moment with Ladies First as we ride down home with one of the prettiest cab drivers you will ever meet. It is 9 o'clock in the morning, and for Kay Owens, that means some clerical work to verify the previous day's receipts. Kay has more than an ordinary interest in the totals. Not only is she secretary and office manager, but she is the owner of the business. Women have been known to hold such positions before, but this is not the kind of operation where you would expect to find a boss who looks like that.
Number 5.
5.
How far along are you?
I'm through as far as 210.
Right, come back to Harris Teeter South.
Okay.
Bill Wild is first shift dispatcher for Gastonia's American and Yellow Cab Company. The lady on the phone is Kay's mother, Mrs. Gladys Baker. She and husband Ernest have run the business for 33 years, but now things are being turned over to Kay. And when they told their daughter to take over, she did exactly that.
Who's on yard 2?
Bill's joy of voice is short-changed, and it sounds a lot better, too.
Well, I'm glad you think so.
18.
1039 North Ransom.
Okay.
Kay is actually taking the cue from Mother. Mrs. Baker got a license 3 years ago and became a driver, logging 20,000 miles in a year and a half on trips no farther than Charlotte's Douglas Airport. Last October, Kay decided to get a license too, and now she's a driver as well.
78.
78.
First Union National Bank picked up Mr. Underwood there in the parking lot.
Check.
In Gastonia, this is what they call the luck of the draw. If the women fares do a double take on getting inside, you can imagine how the gentlemen react when they see a hairdo like that on a cab driver.
Where would you like to go?
Nowhere in particular. I'd just like to ride around town and ask you a few questions, okay?
All right.
You haven't ever had any men to get in and make any proposals of any sort that you might not agree with?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
You surely must be on guard against that. Have you got any plans as to what you'd do?
Not really. I think I just have to wait until somebody does.
Yeah. Suppose I were to say right now, the location we're going to is my apartment. How about a drink?
Well, I just have to tell you no.
Suppose I was the kind that wouldn't take no for an answer.
Well, I'd either put you out or call the dispatcher and send the police up and get you.
You always have that radio to protect you, don't you?
Yeah.
How about your experiences driving around Gastonia? Any close calls yet?
You mean like accidents?
Uh-huh.
No.
Have you got as good a record as anybody with the company so far?
Well, I think maybe I have a better record than a lot of them.
Are women drivers better than men drivers?
Of course.
Of course.
Of course.
Well, I wouldn't go too quick right now. There's a car passing on the side street. I see you saw him very well. Why are women drivers better?
They're more careful.
Well, why are they more careful? I'm not going to let you out that easy.
Well, they think more of themselves than men do.
Yeah.
They're not going to get themselves hurt.
I see. They're too fragile, I guess.
Right.
How would you like driving a cab in a city like Charlotte?
Oh, no. I'd never find my way around.
Well, if you could find your way around, would you like it?
No, I don't think so. Not the way Charlotte is.
That interview, incidentally, cost $4. Funny, it's the first time I can recall a cab ride without noticing the meter. My picture-taking sidekick, John Steed, did not think much of my suggestion that he take up cab driving and she take up photography. Of course, she didn't think much of it either. Our next feminine subject has no desire to drive a taxi, but she can spin a wheel like nobody you ever saw. We're about to turn back the clock here on Mount Olive Road in Alexander County. In that house is Mrs. Mary Hayes, and she's going to treat you to some spinning on the spinning wheel. This spinning wheel is at least 100 years old, but unlike those you see at antique shows, it works. The parts are still intact, and that includes the spindle, spool, flyers, bench wheel, and pedal. Today, for our benefit, Mrs. Hayes is carding the wool which will provide yarn for a Christmas stocking for a grandson. Mrs. Hayes really prefers the modern methods, but she's agreed to show us how it was in the good old days. When did you first learn to do this?
When I was about 15 years old.
And who taught you?
My Aunt Polly.
Do you remember how hard it was to learn?
It was real hard.
And how hard? How would you describe it?
Well, it looked so easily till I thought I could just pick it up and go on with it. But when I started it, it just all went up in the spool without making any thread.
Is that what happens to people usually when they don't know?
That's what happens. You have to know how much of the twist to let go out in your thread before it will pull.
Well, how many people can do this today that you know of?
I only know of one more woman besides me that can.
How difficult is it to get that wool?
It's hard to get wool now.
And your family then, this is a familiar thing in your family background.
Yes, my grandmother did a lot of it, and my husband's mother did a lot of it.
Used to make all their socks and suits and things?
My grandmother made all the family's socks, the men's suits, and the women's dresses, and made her sheets, her linens of all kinds, her blankets, and the coverlets.
How about this dress? Is this something you made too?
Yes, I designed and made this dress all by myself without a pattern.
Right. From some pictures, huh?
Yes, just by seeing the old pictures and the way my father told me that his mother made the dresses.
Why are you interested in keeping this art alive?
Well, I think that it is going completely out, and I would like to keep it alive to show young people how far we have come since the old colonial days, when they had to do all of their spinning and weaving for their clothes and making of their socks and everything.
There seems to be some mighty good engineering in this wheel. This is a well-constructed thing, isn't it?
Yes, I think so.
I mean, it's very functional. They knew what they were doing when they made it.
They sure did.
Who's making them today?
Nobody.
Well, that's a little sad, isn't it?
Well, if I was to be and some more left that could spin, if we can't get the wheels, we couldn't do it. Because there's not many people, I don't believe, that could make a wheel.
And with that statement, you realize it's really 1971 again. But you can say you were among the last of this generation to see an art that was taught in the shadow of the pyramid. Now, before the men take over, a story about an amazing gal named Harriet Mays. Down home for her is Bethune, South Carolina. This lady is busier than a rabbit in a carrot patch. I could be wrong, but I'd bet she's hard at work this very moment.
Good afternoon. How you doing, man?
Fine. Did you bring me those drives?
I brought you some solenoid switches there, and I got you some UF11 wires and some UF14 wires.
Okay. I gave out a UF11 wires this week.
How's everything been going? Pretty good?
Yep.
Harriet Mays is one of the few women anywhere who knows that UF11Y is a type of spark plug. She knows perfectly well what part salesman R.C. Fellow is talking about and could probably tell him a few things about cars. For 27 years, Harriet has been parts manager for her father's auto business. She studied to be a dietitian and actually opened a restaurant in this room in 1941, just as World War II began. Parts became scarce as well as food products, and Dad asked his daughter to help him until things straightened out. Wasn't Dad supposed to let you get back to the restaurant business, though, when the time came?
Yeah, as soon as things got straightened out, he was going to fix me a restaurant just like I wanted.
And what happened?
Well, it's not straight yet.
After how many years?
Oh, that was about 43.
What about your working here, though? Why didn't he hire a man over these years?
Where would he get a man to do what I'm doing?
Indeed, how many men would agree to work from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 days a week? But Miss Harriet is not known in Bethune for that. It is what she does in her so-called spare time that has the citizens shaking their heads. She runs the local March of Dimes drive, serves on the State Heart Association's task force, and she's writing a history of Bethune as executive secretary of the Lynches River Historical Society. She writes a column on Bethune News for the Camden newspaper, and she usually manages to sneak in a plug for the South Carolina Association of Rescue Squads because, naturally, she's president of the organization. And that is not even enough for Miss Mays, so she also serves as editor of the state's Rescue News, which she founded 3 years ago. She is also the reason Bethune's Rescue Squad has the most elaborate emergency vehicle in South Carolina. How did you get that $18,000 car?
Signed a note for it. You mean over at the squad house?
Just your own signature?
Well, that's the way I had to start it off with. All the boys sign it now.
How much money did you have when you started?
Not a cent.
What about donations? Do they come that easily?
Yeah, the people, everybody in Bethune backs us. From children right on up to the older people, everybody, anybody.
You must do a lot of persuading, though, don't you?
Oh, no, we don't have to persuade them. They see how good we are.
You have stayed single all these years.
Yeah.
Is that by design?
That's in the plan. Till 65 anyway.
Now, why is it gone that way? You just don't have time for marriage?
I don't have time. Men are lazy. I could give you a lot of reasons.
Who are you going to find at age 65 who can satisfy that?
Well, I figure when I'm 65, I won't care if it don't work.
On Sundays, Harriet Mays spends 11 hours pumping gas at her father's service station. Any of you bachelors who feel Harriet is worth waiting for at age 65 had better be prepared for an eventful retirement. C.J. Underwood with the Carolina Camera in Bethune, South Carolina.
If you would like to see more classic episodes of Carolina Camera, check out Time Warner Cable's Carolina On Demand, Channel 199 or 1047.